Talk Chelsea podcast. We're here yet again, as we are every week, Monday, 9:30 p.m. GMT time. And here we come with another update on Chelsea. Well, there's not much to be talking about, is there? We actually haven't played a game this week, which is, God, what a relief that is, because we ended the last break on a bit of a Titanic break. However, there was a international break. There was another load of injuries. Tim, how did you see the last week in terms of the internationals?
Yeah, so this week has been very boring for myself. I don't know about you, but it's sort of where I switch off from football and do the regular things you do in life or the things you don't actually get to do, I suppose. So it's more about just I suppose reflecting on what we can do in the games going forward, looking at the international games and keeping up with little football things, but as well as normal life. I don't know about you, Charlie.
Well, yeah, exactly the same. But one thing that I did notice in the last week is obviously we're walking into a game against Bournemouth this weekend, which is huge in my opinion because God, the start of the season has been a bit of a very common to last season, but we've had another injury. Mudryk
Yeah.
got injured, and we were talking about this midweek. We've got a huge injury table yet again, as we did last season. And this it looks like a reflection, exactly the same as what happened last season. Do you think we're moving in the right direction? You know.
It's a hard thing to say. I think we're actually moving in the sort of wrong direction. I don't know if you agree, but it's after last season. I suppose it's hard to look at anything in a positive light. Every game we went into was pretty much you thought we'd lose or draw or something bad would happen, injuries, all sorts, and it's kind of after that Liverpool game, everyone was high in spirits, high in confidence. Everyone thought, okay, we have a good chance here of doing something. But then that Luton game, I suppose, was more of a smash and grab. Like I said, I wasn't really impressed with that performance because Luton didn't really offer anything. I mean, their midfield was Barkley, Nakamba, and someone else. I can't remember who it was, but again, that just shows you like the standard of their team. And for periods of that game, if they were a better team, they might have done what Forest did to us at the end of the day. But the problem is that they're just not that good, I suppose. And it gave us maybe that false sense of, we can carry on beating these smaller teams. But as we saw with Forest, they came with a bit of fire. And, as soon as they got that first goal, it was really, I don't know, the same old from last season. You remember the games against Southampton, Villa, it just looked exactly the same as that. And I don't know if you agree, but yeah.
Well, I mean, my opinion is that the next, few games that we're walking into are absolutely huge. We're walking into a few games that are absolutely huge, which will dictate our season. Yes, of course. The first game of the season, Liverpool at home. I mean, I was the first one who had a bit of a spring in my step, if you like, after on the Monday, running into work, and all that, you can argue that West Ham was a blip, but there's certainly patterns that are emerging again, unfortunately. And remember in June when the fixture list was released, we said that the first 10, 12, 15 games, these were the games that we should have got the 3 points guaranteed in the bank. We're walking into something, and obviously that's very concerning. Are you concerned about Pochettino?
I am, to be honest. I think the main thing is this insistence on Chilwell to play him at left wing. I don't know how much longer it can last. That left hand side just looks so neglected. we attack with one side pretty much, and the other side is sort of used as a defensive side. It's like you punch with your right hand, but you're completely blocking with your left hand. Everyone's going to know which side you're coming from, sort of thing. So I think it's the element of surprise that you need in football sometimes. You see it a lot with City or even other teams where they'll switch wings for 10, 20 minutes, whatever, where I don't know, it'll be whoever, Foden and Bernardo Silva or whoever's playing on the wings. They'll sometimes switch sides just to give the element of surprise. Or Liverpool, as they do, they switch the ball quickly so they don't give you time to sort of rest and reset. But with us, you know exactly where we're coming from. We're looking to play it down the right-hand side. We're giving it to Sterling, giving it to Reece James or Gusto at the moment. And it's kind of just predictable. And it doesn't help either when you don't have many players attacking the box. So I don't know. I am worried for him. I think these next 5 fixtures are very, very big because with the amount we spent, as I think we've mentioned many times, his days are numbered at the end of the day. You already see media pressure. You already see fan pressure where there's booze at the bridge, and that's never a good thing, I suppose. I know people say, oh, Chelsea fans are spoiled and they've seen success. But at the end of the day, when you spent this type of money so quick, people are going to be annoyed and asking questions as, why is a left back playing at left wing when you spend 66 million on Mudryk, you spent 40 million on Cole Palmer, you spent 32 million on Madueke, and you're still playing Colwell at left back, who's not a left back. You're playing, Chilwell at left wing, who's not a left winger. So, yeah, just a lot of questions need to be asked, I think.
And obviously, Chilwell, going on to Chilwell, which is one of the biggest points that a lot of fans are saying. Obviously, he played for England this week. Played how many minutes? About 60, 70 minutes for England against Ukraine.
Yeah.
Whereabouts did Gareth South? Did you watch that game? And where did he play him? And do you feel that was where he should be played? And do you feel that there's a case we had there?
Yeah, well, looking at it, it was sort of like Chilwell was a left back, but he still operated the same sort of positions he was at Chelsea, which was quite weird because Bellingham was kind of playing on the left. But then again, we know Gareth Southgate, he does try these weird things, I suppose. He tried to fit Henderson and Rice in the team, Saka on the right, and Maddison sort of 10, Bellingham on the left, and then Rice and Henderson as the 2 sitters. So it was a bit of a convoluted, weird formation. But you saw Chilwell in that inside half space. I suppose it's something I saw with under Tuchel, where he used to get the wingers out wide and the fullbacks on the inside. And I don't know. I don't think Chilwell's game suits that personally for me. I don't think he's a player with good tight control and, pick out a pass sort of thing. And I kind of feel bad for him because he's going to get a lot of pressure on him. Purely the fact that he's not good at it, so it makes him look worse when he attempts to try it. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I don't know. Yes, I don't know. Someone who's a constructor, you're telling them to figure out what Pythagoras meant 10,000 years ago or something. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, you know what I mean? Like, they're not going to have a clue. So it's kind of square pegs in round holes, as the old saying says. But I don't know if you watch the game and what you think about it.
Well, I mean, I watched the game, but obviously, it's very much chalk and cheese in my opinion. England and Chelsea, it's chalk and cheese. Always has been. Internationals, you play to your strengths, and you don't get an option as to who you buy. You just get given, your team based upon your nationality, and therefore it's a little bit of a different game. But one thing I do want to ask you about is obviously it's a huge game, I think, on Sunday, 2 p.m. GMT, Bournemouth versus Chelsea. This is not an easy game, but it's a game that we really need to pull, something out of our arse, if you like. How do you see Pochettino, getting a result out of that game? What do you reckon? Because the way that I look at it, we need to go there and really make a statement because, we haven't made any statements this season so far, apart from Luton. And that was, the only game. how do you see Pochettino setting up? How do you see Chelsea making that statement that we all want?
Yeah, that's the funny question. I think I want to really ask him myself, because I don't see how it changes from the last game. To be honest, I think he goes with a similar team we saw against who was it now? Who did we just play? Um, Nottingham Forest. So I think we, you know, Chilwell will still start at left wing. I think Colwell will still start. I think he was fit for England. He was on the bench, wasn't he? Uh,
Yeah,
yeah.
we got a call up, which was
Yeah, I really don't see any changes from what I've seen so far of Pochettino. I really don't. I'm hoping that he decides to maybe put Sterling on the left, although I think he's played a lot better on the right, which, we started to see the sort of Man City Sterling showing up now. So I would like to see maybe Cole Palmer on the left, or maybe Madueke given a chance on the left. Problem is that they're both left-footed. So do you restrict them to just crossing the ball? Because maybe you want a different option on the left, of someone coming inside and getting a strike off, or giving the defender an extra option to think about coming inside instead of just going outside. So I would like to see another attacker on, because I think we play with too many defensive players to start with. Chelsea sort of need to start on the front foot. I think they're a team that needs to score first. I don't think they're a team that really can break down defenses, and it's something that I don't think Pochettino's ever really been good at any team he's been at. It's something he's struggled with. Any sort of tight defense teams, he's not had the best of luck, should I say, or his strong suit. So it's imperative, like I say, for us to get the first goal and just impose ourselves on them. Show that we are Chelsea. We're not to be messed around with. And I don't know if that's down to chemistry. I don't know if that's down to team selection, but I think it's a bit of both, but mainly team selection. So, yeah, I don't know what you think.
Well, it's funny you say that, because we're having a very similar conversation last night, and Conte. If you look back to that season, it clicked, didn't it? It just clicked. There was one point where I remember we were 3-0 down against Arsenal, and we just went, what was it, 3 at the back, and then we were on a winning streak for about 10, 15 games, and then ended up winning the league, right? It just feels like we've got a body of talent in this team, in this squad. We're very close, in my opinion, to getting it to click, but we're sort of 99% there at the moment, and there's 1% that we're missing, and who knows what that is. Graham Potter couldn't find it. Frank Lampard couldn't find it. And at the moment, Pochettino can't find it, and let's hope that he does, because these players are talented. There's no doubt about that, and everyone says that you don't spend this sort of money and end up with a bunch of Sunday League players. That's not the way it works out.
Do
you
think it's down to how many players we've replaced at once?
Well, I mean, yeah, you could argue that, but then we did the same thing this time last year. We did the same thing in January, and I mean, everyone remembers in May when we had that last game against Newcastle, and we were sitting there going, God, I can't wait for this bloody season to end. We were all going, I can't wait to pump a load of players out, and that was that. Do you remember that? Right?
Yeah.
And then it was kind of like, well. Which players are we going to get in? And this was the kind of mentality. I personally think we've got enough talent there, but of course, I think we probably overspent on certain players. We probably are, we probably sold players, but I think in the transfer window that we've done in that summer transfer window, I think overall, bloody hell, it was better business than we did in January. In January, we didn't do any good business, and in July last year, we didn't do any good business either. I think we've got better. We've got a good manager, a qualified manager, and we've got the best chance. But of course, it's a disappointing start, isn't it? Let's face it. I mean, God, we drew with Liverpool last year twice. Yeah. Nottingham Forest have won one away game the whole time they've been in the Premier League this time around against Southampton, and the other one was against us. Luton are probably going to go down as one of the worst Premier League teams, of all time. You've got to put it in perspective. There has to be a response, in my opinion. I think this Bournemouth game is huge because Bournemouth, they're not an easy team to play, especially at their place. And I think that, I'm hoping to go down there, but I really do think that's a really tough game, but it's a statement game. And then obviously Villa at home, that's another statement game. I mean, one thing I was thinking about the other day is what do you think about the sort of League Cup? Do you think that's something that we should be trying to, Jose Mourinho, the first year he was in charge, he always says that was his enigma. Pep Guardiola's, won multiple League Cups. Do you think, Brighton at home, it's hopefully we can, I mean, I'm not saying it's an easy game, but you think that we can progress against that one. Do you think that's something that maybe we should target and sort of, or cups and things like that? Because realistically, we're not going to win the league. So
that is true.
Yeah,
that is true. Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think the cups are the best way to get some sort of winning momentum, or just not even winning momentum, just winning mentality, I suppose. If you get a trophy at the end of the day, it starts to breed success or belief. I don't know if you remember an old quote from Joe Cole when he said his favorite trophy was the Carling Cup because it was the first one he'd ever won, and he thought, you know what, this was the start of when he felt like Chelsea were really the dominant thing. His favorite league, obviously he won 3 Premier Leagues, 3 FA Cups, I think 2 maybe Carling Cups, or maybe 1. I think he left at the end of 2010, so it might have been 1 Carling Cup, 3 Premier Leagues. Anyway, he got to a Champions League final, unfortunately lost, but he's a decorated player. But at the end of the day, he said the first trophy was the best one, and it's sort of like a kickstarter to think, yeah, we can actually do this, and it's something that I think our players need at the end of the day, because you saw, I don't know if you saw the reports, whether they're fake or not. I would be feeling the same. Did you see the Enzo Fernandez report?
No, you tell me.
Okay, so there was a report, I think it's from an Argentinian or Spain source, said that he's really frustrated with Chelsea so far, and he's already thinking about an exit because he doesn't see this team as an ambitious team who's going to do anything. And to be honest, if I was him, thinking of the World Cup he had and the position he's come from, why would you think of staying at Chelsea for the long term, apart from the fact that you have an 8-year contract? I would be looking at elsewhere at the end of this season if we didn't look like we're going anywhere, because we've spent all this money now. I don't think the spending is going to continue. I think it's going to more slow down now. So it's more of what can you do with the players you currently have, and the thing is, we have a lot of young players. So it's more about developing them and getting them to a level rather than signing the next big star and next big thing and, us adding on top of this. So it's really got to work out in that sense. Like, we're stuck with what we have right now, I think. And I think it'll be hard to shift these players on because of the long contracts. All we can do now is maybe loan them out for years. So yeah, and that's why I say the pressure is on Pochettino now to really deliver, and the players. So in the convoluted way, yeah, the cup is a very important thing. I think league-wise, I don't know. What do you think league-wise, where we can finish?
We're not going to win the league, are we, this season?
Yeah.
We've basically already, 4 games in, we can sort of accept that, can't we, as fans? We're not going to win the league. We're not going obviously, we're not going to win the Champions League because we're not even in it. The cup's the best thing. And look at West Ham. That's a really good example. where they won the Europa Conference League, and at the moment, and of course it's only 4 games in, let's not get carried away, but they've had a very good start to the season.
Yeah.
And they lost Declan Rice, who was their best player, but they had a very good start to the season. If you go back in time, and some of our viewers might not know this, but at Chelsea as a football club, we were always a cup team. If you go back in time, we had we've always been that way. We got to the FA Cup final in 1994. We lost humiliatingly to Manchester United in the rain, 4-0. But in 1997, we won the cup, and then we won a bit of a roll. We won the League Cup in '98. The FA Cup again in 2000 and so on. So as a club, because we punched a bit higher than we did. We used the cups as our way of pressing forward. Are West Ham going to win the league? Are they going to get in the Champions League? No way. It's not going to happen, is it? Let's face it. But the spirit around West Ham at the moment is big, isn't it? Those guys, that the fans are buzzing, the players want to play for them, and they punch above their weight. That's the key. They punch above their weight. The problem that we have, bloody hell, we punch below our weight at the moment. I mean, we really do.
Yeah.
And Man United, obviously, they won the trophy last season. The League Cup. And everybody thought they would press on. They haven't, but I do believe that that's a trophy we should aim to be doing. And I think Pochettino, I did read something that Pochettino took a bite out of Jose Mourinho. Jose Mourinho always had that in his head, that the Carling Cup can bring you on to something else. And I'm pretty sure, and I might be wrong, forgive me if I am, but I think Pochettino, unfortunately, won the Carling Cup against us at some point. So that's the game. But anyway, moving forward, I digress. Transfer news. Tim, anything clicking?
No. At the moment, I think the only links are for another striker, Ivan Toney. Like I say, but I'd like to see with some of the players we have right now, and I think it's time to sort of move on to what I wanted to talk about as well with Mykhailo Mudryk. Shall we give him time or not?
Well, I don't think we've got an option, have we?
Huh?
I don't think we've got an option where, if you sign up to 7-year contracts, I don't think you've got an option to give him time. But it's so far it has been not a great start. But there is something about him, and I want him to do well. What do you reckon, Tim?
Yeah, a bit of a strange one. I think again he's one of those players that just doesn't look like he would ever do well at Chelsea. I don't know what it is, but I always get this feeling with some certain players when they come in the club, they just don't look right, and he's another one of them. I can never see him being a good player at Chelsea. It's one of those things where I think we all hope and know. You see some sort of talent in there, and you just know Chelsea. I don't think it's the type of club that will give you time to mess up and sort of develop your game. I think maybe at Arsenal, if he had been an understudy to Martinelli and come off the bench the way Trossard is, I think if they'd both made the opposite moves, it would have probably benefited both clubs. If Trossard had come here and Mudryk had gone there, I think that would have made more sense because they're a stable team. They would have gave him minutes off the bench and, in the cups and whatnot. Maybe the Europa League they were in last year, I believe. Yeah, they were. So that's where he could have got his game time. But I think he really needs to work on his actual football game himself. I saw the game against England. He had like 8 or 9 touches in a half. And I'm just thinking he often doesn't get involved in the game as much as he should because, you see the talent when he came on against Liverpool. You know, he was fast, direct, had good link-up play. And ever since then, and you know what, he hadn't played football for a couple of months because of the war and the end of the season and stuff. So it's kind of weird. Like he just looks so off it, like so off it. And then with his current recent injury, it's a shame because if you're being benched by a left back who's not even a left winger at the end of the day, what does that say about what you're doing in training?
Great point.
Well, what does that say about?
It's a great point, and it's the curse of Chelsea. I always call it the curse of Chelsea. Is the fact that the best we've seen of Mudryk is his debut, you know, and how many players can we look at that we've bought over the last, 6, 12, 18 months, and we've had exactly the same experience, and you have to question that. You've got to question that. If you don't, you're an idiot, in my opinion. There've been plenty of play, even Jackson now, who started quite well. It just looks like it's slipping. The standards have started slipping, and you have to question it. I mean,
Yeah,
do you see the correlation that I'm trying to make, or is that in my head? Am I some conspiracy theorist?
I think you're onto something, but I think it's more as a team was slipping off. I think obviously the more games you play, the more you get found out. I think at the top level or any level of football, it's how well you can do the repetitive things at a high level, if you know what I mean. Everyone's got their own attributes. Everyone's got their weak points and strong points. It's like Man City. You know they're going to pass you around. You know they're going to keep the ball for 8% of the time. But how well can they do that all the time? It's the consistency that matters. And I think with Chelsea, we're consistent at keeping the ball. We're consistent at maybe creating half chances or whatnot. But are we consistent at scoring? No, we haven't shown that. Are we consistent at creating good chances? No, we haven't shown that. So, in a way, how can you expect these players to do things when we're not consistent at what we're supposed to be doing, if you know what I mean? And I feel sorry for Jackson because, like I say, he is a very good all-round player, but is he a finisher? Do you trust him to get you 20 goals? And do you trust anyone in this team to get you 20 goals?
Well, not anymore, of course. I say not anymore. He's only played 4 Premier League games, but already questions are being asked. And this is the problem. Sterling, when he joined us, the first couple of games, he was brilliant. Then he had a really bad sort of season, a really awful pre-season. Then he had quite a good, and this is what you're saying about consistency. There is no one who's consistent. I mean, literally no one in that team, apart from the only one that I would always say is consistent, and is Thiago Silva. He's the only one that you can just rely on as a rock in that back line. The rest of them, I mean, Sterling can have an off game. Mudryk can easily have an off game. Even Enzo can. They all can have an off game. And that's probably, the problem. And, it's funny, wasn't it? Because I was having this chat with you last night about when Conte won the league, every single player in that team, in that funny formation that we played with Alonso and Victor Moses as a right winger or a right back or whatever it was, every single player in that team can hold their heads up. And at the end of the season, they probably look back, in their little bedroom, and they probably go, you know what, that was the best season I've ever played, ever, because of the system, or I don't know what it was. No one got injured, everything was fine. But that moves me on to something else: injuries. We're going around in circles again. We had the same problem last season with injuries. We spent heavily in January. We played Lewis Hall at left back because we didn't have a left back, and no disrespect to Lewis Hall, but we were literally getting players from the academy because we had so many injury problems. Is there a correlation there? We've got a massive squad now. What's going on there, Tim?
It's a tough one to answer. I think when you see how many injuries this squad has had over the last 2 years, it is an absurd amount. I saw the Lavia injury was a contact injury. So meaning it happened, obviously probably a player fouled him in training, which these things happen, I suppose. But it's just the amount that it's happened at Chelsea recently. And I've said this, it kind of just reminds me of, the late Arsenal 2010s where, everything just seemed to be, it was like their banter era, right? Where everyone was laughing at them. Whenever they started to look good, one of their players would get injured or something bad would happen. They would lose silly games that you'd think, oh my God, how are these guys doing it? They were a young team. All their best players had left and moved on and thought, this club ain't going to win anything. And it kind of reminds me, obviously, theirs was probably a bit worse. They still had Wenger at the time and they were still making top four, fair play to them. But it kind of reminds me of that, where we've just completely fallen off as a team. And you remember that Arsenal team, 04, 03, 02, where they were a serious side. And then up until, from 07 when Henry left and they had Fabregas, Nasri, Van Persie, and then they all left as well to go on to do bigger and better things. It kind of feels like that, just personally for me. I don't know if you agree, but it kind of feels like that, where we don't quite look like we're a team that can win anything. We're not the nearly team. We're not even there. We're just like we compete and then just completely fall off, if you know what I mean.
We relied too heavily, in my opinion, on 3 or 4 players all the time, and that's the biggest problem. Reece James massively, Chilwell massively, and that system that we play when Chilwell and Reece James are fit, we're very competitive. Unfortunately, the problem is neither of them are bloody fit. That is literally the problem. And to get them both fit together, I mean, it may be 5 games a season, literally. I mean, I remember last season, right? And everyone said we did have a bad season, terrible season, probably one of the worst seasons in my lifetime. However, do you remember Tottenham at home? I was so proud. We deserved to win that game. Harry Kane scored at the end. And the way that we played football, and not just that, Liverpool away, I thought we were very good. And again, it's a game where Reece James and Chilwell were fit. And this is the thing, that those 2 players we rely on heavily. Obviously, Thiago Silva, but he's always fit. That's not really a thing. But I mean, Jesus Christ, we need to get the ball in the back of the net. I mean, it's one good thing, in my opinion, that Havertz has gone to Arsenal. At least Jackson can move his body and at least look towards the goal line. That I like. But I don't think he's the end goal. And I really think it's important that we push towards Ivan Toney in January.
Sorry, I just wanted to ask, how big do you think Nkunku and Chukwuemeka getting injured has contributed to this?
We don't know, and it's not worth the risk to know, if that makes sense. Last season we were worried about Reece James and Chilwell and Kante. How many conversations did we have about Kante last season? And he bloody played 3 or 4 games the whole year. You can rest on those sort of laurels all you want, but in my opinion, you've got to get over that. Players that get injured a lot, they're not worth having, or if they are worth having, then you've got to have somebody else to check in my opinion. And look, if Jackson got injured tomorrow, we'd be absolutely screwed. What have we got? Literally, Sterling probably is going to have to play in the middle. I mean, we have to have somebody else. It has to happen. We have to buy somebody else. And in my opinion, Ivan Toney is the man. I've always said this. Chelsea's the best striker. There's 2 strikers there's many more than 2. But in the last sort of 20 years, who Chelsea have been, who've always produced, Didier Drogba and Costa. Those are the two ones. And what's the similarity? They're bastards. I call them bastards. They're people who can give that centre back a go. You don't want to play against those people. And Jackson has that, but Ivan Toney, Jesus Christ, he's I would, and I play Sunday League not very well, as you can see, but I'm telling you now, Ivan Toney, you as a centre back, you would not want to play against him. The way that he operates, the way that he can turn you, the way that he's got something about him, he's got a vision. He's a nasty player in terms of the way. And they've always worked at Chelsea. You can't be a softie at Chelsea. You've got to be that number 9. That number 9. But yeah, go on, Tim.
Yeah, so I just wanted to bring. I'll ask you 2 questions. So first of all, as you see with CAA Mafia, he says you guys must not know who Todd Boehly is. Every team he owns competes and sustains winning. He'll get it right. So what do you think about that, Charlie?
Well, every team, he's only got one team, as far as I know. He's got a baseball team. Right. So look, I'm not Boehly, in my opinion, it's nothing to do with Boehly. Boehly's actually done quite well. He spent well. No one can argue about Boehly in some respects. He spent the money, and let's not be fickle, Chelsea fans. Around the world, every single time Boehly spent £100 million on Enzo Fernandez, we got excited. And we and can I say that we all got excited, so that you can't have the blame entirely on Boehly, But at the same time, that there is, it's not working at the moment, is it? So there's got to be, and the only, if you throw, 10 dice in a row and every single dice hits number 1, there's a pattern, isn't there? And the pattern at the moment is Boehly. At the moment, we've had Thomas Tuchel, Graham Potter, Frank Lampard, now Pochettino. If we're sitting in 11th, and look, I know it's only 4 games in, but we're still sitting in 11th. People forget that there's no improvement, but yet we've spent X amount of money. So there has to be a common denominator, and the common denominator at the moment is Boehly. So it's easy to throw darts at Boehly at the moment. If that makes sense. Go on. You what's your opinion on that?
No, I think I most totally agree with what you're saying, to be honest. I don't think it's a thing of just blaming the manager, because at the end of the day, who employs these managers? It's not like Pochettino just said, "Oh, I'm coming in at Chelsea. It's nothing you can do about it." They picked Pochettino at the end of the day. You saw there was Nagelsmann available. For some reason he turned away that job. God knows what went on there. I'm not sure about other manager options. Maybe they could have gone De Zerbi, the Brighton manager. Who knows at the end of the day? But this was their pick. And if you remember last season, he was one that was shortlisted as well. So clearly he's been a target for the club for a while. So yeah, it might take time to get things right. But the thing is, are these owners going to carry on spending the way they have? And how much do we need to spend? Those are the sort of questions that go, that can't be answered. They only get answered as time goes on. We can only speculate. From what I speculate at the moment, I don't see how much more money you can spend as an owner when you're not getting no return in it. So at the end of the day, are we just going to carry on selling all these academy players to bring the next new shiny toy or whatever? And the thing is, from what it looks like, we're signing under 25s, again, who are not experienced, who need game time. So if we're going to be out the top Champions League, or whatever, competitions very early, how are they going to get this game time? How are we going to improve as a club?
Yeah, and I'm going back to that comment, by CAA Mafia. Great comment. Do you think deep down that this was Boehly's plan? No way. I mean, this is if you said to him in July 2022 that he would have gone through 4 managers and he would have spent £1 billion. And yet the fans are still questioning him. and he would not have even qualify for the Champions League or even anything else. I don't think I think he would have snapped. He would think you're absolutely mental. So it wasn't the plan all along. It hasn't gone the way that it's meant to go. Um, and everybody, of course, when you're sitting, as Chelsea fans, and I'm 33 years old. In my lifetime, we've always pretty much qualified for Europe at least, and won many a trophy. You do have to question it. You do have to question, and you do have to find you have to find the blame, don't you? Because that's how you sleep at night. You have to, you pinpoint the blame on someone. Is it the
Yeah.
manager? Is it the players? Is it the doctors? I mean, God, we've got an injury list, longer than,
The
it's a
Eiffel
hell of a
Tower.
long, and that's another talking point.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but the point is, at what point, and the easiest one to stab is probably the owners, to be honest, just because that's the common denominator,
Yeah, so moving on to the next comment is Mehul Dovrani has said here we've overpaid by 20 to 15% for every transfer.
Correct.
Yeah, so what do you think on that? And if you can elaborate on which transfers particularly you're not happy with or you were happy with.
I'd be honest with you. I don't think I, and I don't actually think there is one transfer that I could pinpoint that Bowley's got right. Well, I say Bowley, but since he's taken over, that you
Clearly,
could
yeah.
pinpoint and you could
Yeah.
go, that was good value for money. And
Okay.
in terms, forgive me if I'm wrong. Tell me.
No, I think, well, I think it's a multitude of things because we're performing so bad. Who can you say looks like a good value of money? Maybe Malo Gusto. I think he was quite cheap. I think it was less than 20 million. He's the only one. To be fair, he has played well, and it's not been down to him. We've had bad results. I think he's the one I can look at and think, no matter if we had a bad season, if he keeps this performance, he would look like a good value for money in this current market. If you think about it, he's 19 years old, playing France under 21s, I believe, and he's playing every week. He's giving a consistent performance. So that's the only one I can right now say he looks like the value for money. As for everyone else, because we're doing so bad, I can't pinpoint a single other transfer. Enzo, obviously, he's quality, but without the goals and the assists, his game kind of looks nullified, and that's maybe not just personally because of him, but also just how the team's performing. He can spray 10 passes, create 10 chances, and whatnot. But if we're not scoring goals, that 105 million, whatever, doesn't look very good because of what we need in the team. I don't know if you remember if you saw what Paul Scholes said about Steven Gerrard. And it's kind of the same thing where Paul Scholes said, if you put me in that Liverpool team, there's no way I could do what Gerrard did. And, Scholes would basically not be seen in the same light if he played for that Liverpool team because everyone would be like, oh, this Liverpool team doesn't get anywhere. It doesn't win anything because he's not got the attributes that Gerrard has. And yeah, so it's in that sense, it's the same thing. Like our team at the moment requires goals and a good final play. So until we see that, we won't see the fruits and the best part of this team. Defensively, we've looked shocking as well, though. So that's another thing I wanted to say. Is there any defensive players you've been impressed with, or not at all?
No, I mean the only one is Thiago, isn't there? And the rest of them are just very hit and miss, very hot and cold. But going back to Mehul's point here, it's
Yeah.
that is a really good point because it plays into something else. You see, because we've overpaid for 20%, 15%, like he says, against other clubs. Basically, we've basically been forced our hand. We've had to sell players in order to balance the books that we maybe wouldn't have sold. And I don't think it was the plan. a year ago that we were going to sell Kovacic, Mason Mount, Havertz. Let's forget about that because I think that was probably a good thing, and probably Mason Mount actually looking back was a good thing, and even Kovacic. In fact, they were all pretty good sales looking back. But the point that I'm trying to make is that I don't think at the time it was always very controversial, wasn't it? Were we going to sell it? And people like Chalobah, people like Lewis Hall, people like these kind of guys, academy players, I don't think they were ever on the market, and they've been kind of forced. And Conor Gallagher's another one. I think he's kind of been forced on the market a little bit as a result of paying excess amount for players. So that's a good point. And moving on to the next one, CIA Mafia. He's new to the sport. He's got lots to learn, but all we can ask is for an ambitious owner. Exactly right. I agree with that completely. I think he means well. His heart's in the right place. But I do think there's no doubt he's made mistakes, and I do actually have a lot of respect for him as an owner that he's admitted those mistakes. But he's stuck to his guns. I don't think there's any Chelsea fans out there who have a problem with Bowley specifically, because you can't blame an owner who's put money in his pocket. Put his hand in his pocket and spent money. How can you? And there we go. What do you reckon, Tim?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think we can't really complain. I think it would be wrong for us to point the finger at him. I think what we can do is just question how that money has been spent so far. It's Absolutely. I think at the moment, obviously, because things aren't going well, you're going to ask questions. You're going to look at it as sort of a scattergun approach. We've seen we're trying to buy another club in Portugal at the moment. We've bought all these young players. I don't think we quite had the perfect plan. We sent Andrey Santos on loan on deadline day in that Nottingham Forest team, and I'm sure they have like nearly 30 players registered for their first team or whatnot in their squad. So again, does he get playing time? Was that a good loan move? And he looked settled and part of our squad. Then we bought Ugochukwu, and I don't know. I don't know. There's just a bit of a messy, a messy closet in the back, if you know what I mean, like where it doesn't look quite settled.
Yeah, but if you think back, Ted, when he bought the club, and when he actually had, when Abramovich was sanctioned and so on, and when he actually had the ability to spend money on players, it was supermarket sweep. And the worst part about it was January, because we had that massive injury list. People forget about this. We were playing. I remember the game against Man City. We had Lewis Hall at left back. Not saying Lewis Hall, he's a great player. But the point that I'm trying to make is that we were forced into this thing. We were desperate as fans for some money spent on players. And he literally just went on the market and went, right, who's available? And just literally went with the machine gun and went like that. And that's basically what he did. This transfer window has been a lot more structured. Look, it's very hard, isn't it? We're 4 games in. We can't at the moment make any decisions on what was a good buy, what was a good sell, what was what was value for money here, there, and everywhere. So you've got to give time. But it looks like, it sounds stupid, right? But imagine Abramovich. He suddenly had the reins taken off him. The club was just randomly sold. There was no kind of structure to selling. This is a huge company. Can you imagine? And suddenly you just got your arms are tied like round your back. And then the person who's coming in to buy it has a load of people who are going to leave the company, who know everything about the company. It was always going to be a mess, if we're being honest. It was never going to be, structured too well. And it is what it is. It is what it is. But let's hope that this season we can at least qualify for, the Conference League or something. But anyway, moving on to that. Bournemouth at the weekend is a big game, big win, hopefully a big win. a lot of people were saying when the fixture list came out, this is the easiest fixture list. I actually read a thing that it was Man City had the easiest fixtures and we had the second easiest fixtures. So far, we've won one, we've lost two, and we've drawn one. It's not the greatest start to the season. How important do you think it is that we, penetrate Bournemouth, Aston Villa, these kind of teams that we're coming up against? Because there's a hell of an awful run of games in November and December that I've looked at. What do you reckon?
Yeah, this is the asking question. I think we've just got to see, I suppose. I think our next 5 fixtures are as goes. I think we've got Bournemouth away, Villa at home, Brighton at home in the cup, Fulham away, and Burnley away. Before then, our next real big test, because after that, we
It's
have
game over, isn't it?
Arsenal at home, Brentford at home, Spurs away, Man City at home, Newcastle away, Brighton at home, Man United away. So, I don't know about you, but we definitely need to get maximum points in the next 4 or 5 fixtures. And if I'm honest, personally, Charlie, I think we'll get a draw at Bournemouth. Villa at home could be a potential loss, to be honest, with the way we're playing.
Yeah, and the way
And the
Villa
way
are
that
playing.
I know Villa. I know speak to Villa fans all the time, but they've got injuries. But even they're confident against us, which I don't like at all, obviously. But even they think that a lot of them think we will finish 8th, 9th, not even the top 8. A lot of them think that one of our players is going to be flop of the season. You know, we're going to be the flop team of the season as well. So, how do we approach those games, and what do you think we can do to win those games if you were Pochettino right now?
It's a weird one, isn't it? Because Bournemouth away, in my opinion, it's not exactly a statement win, is it? Even if we win 1-0, 2-0, unless we win by a hell of a lot of goals, it's not a statement win. I think the crunch game is that Villa at home. I think if we don't get a good result against Bournemouth at the weekend, and we go into that Villa game, God, I mean that is a tough game, and
Yeah,
and at home as well. We've had a terrible record at Stamford Bridge, in the last 12 months against teams that we expected to beat. It's crazy, but yeah, I mean, I predict. I think Bournemouth. Look, I'm going to Bournemouth. Hopefully, if one of my mates gets me a ticket. So I'm gonna, happy-go-lucky Charlie. I'm going for a 2-0 win. Uh, and that's me. Villa at home, Christ, could be anything. I reckon a 1-1 draw there. But there was something that happened this week, even though there was no Premier League football. There was a Legends game, and Tim will tell you all about that now because I didn't catch it.
right. So obviously at Stamford Bridge for Gianluca Vialli's passing, there was a Legends game on. I think the first sort of even Legends sort of old sort of players game we've seen since Zola's testimonial at Stamford Bridge. That was what, 2003?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was
yeah. So
against. Yeah, I remember that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So again, a long time. I think it's very long been overdue, and a bit of a surprise to why they haven't had anything like this for a long while. I'm not quite sure why the answer is that. I suppose the owners or previous owners would have given you more of an answer on that, but I think it would have been a good way to bring extra money to the club, especially over the years with how many players we've had go in and out of this club. I think it definitely would have been a bit of a benefit. But anyway, in regards to the Legends game, it was just good to see all these old players back. And, some of them, you kind of forgot how good they were because back in those days, obviously, it was more about being a footballer before an athlete. It was how good were you on the ball. I think these days, with the academy kids and sort of that stuff, it's also being an athlete before a footballer, and then the football technique maybe follows you along. But yeah, seeing the old boys, seeing John Terry, Cahill, they still look like they could play today. To be honest, they Thiago Silva and John Terry at the back today. I wouldn't mind seeing that. Uh, but yeah, again, the Michael Essien still he still looks like he could play today. Honestly, so fit. Solomon Kalou is still being
Solomon
Solomon
Kalou.
Kalou doing Solomon Kalou things. But yeah, it was just great to see. So you saw I don't know if you saw John Terry scored in the 26th minute, exactly the 26th minute.
I didn't see it. Was it a bullet
Yeah,
header
exactly. Oh
or
no.
a super volley?
So he did a run up the pitch as he used to kind of thing, and then he passed it off to Maluda on the side and just made a
Maluda.
stop. Yeah, made a stroll in the box, and typical Maluda, he smashed the ball across the box, and JT sort of just stuck a toe out, and it went in the near post. So yeah, it was just great to see, and the scoreline. Even Thiago looked good. Zola played a brilliant pass again. If he had the fitness, he would be different class in today's game. Or if he was a few years younger, of course, as well. And, different class. And, it's just great to see all these players again. And it just made you realize, like Essien scoring a header from a Ramirez sort of cross on the simple things like that. We don't even see it. I don't remember the last time we scored a goal from a cross. When's the last time we actually scored a goal from a cross? Exactly. It makes you think, don't it? Simple things like that. I seriously don't remember. Who was us? No, I can't remember the last time we scored a goal from just this, like an in-play cross, not a corner, an in-play cross, where we played it out wide, someone's whipped it in, and we've just had a player head it
Conor
into the
Gallagher
goal.
away against, was it Palace last season? Something like that. I remember Gallagher. It was against Bournemouth, actually, funnily enough. Yeah, it was.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah, probably that one. But funnily enough, who did we play? It was Bayern Munich, wasn't it, in the Legends game? And was Drogba playing?
No, Drogba didn't play. I would have loved to see him or Lampard because, again, I think Frank maybe he may have taken a back step at the time when the Legend Games was announced or whatever, due to him potentially looking at a manager's job or whatever. And and it was interesting actually because the night before, John Terry mentioned something about Mason Mount, where he said, Mason Mount was Chelsea through and through. Please don't boo him when he comes back to the bridge. And a lot of people don't know what actually happened between him and the club. So yeah, take it easy on him, give him a warm reception sort of thing. So what do you think of those comments?
Well, I've heard about that. I mean, obviously, I'll be there at Stamford Bridge and probably at Old Trafford when we play against Mason Mount. But
Mason Mount or Man United?
well, Man United and Mason Mount, but at the moment it's the jury's out. I would say the jury's out. But yeah, we're going to have to wrap up, guys. I'm afraid. We always just do an hour. If you're new to the channel, guys, we're on YouTube every week. 9:30 UK time every single Monday. We're also on TKS TV, and a big shout out to Lee Morgan, who facilitates that every single week. We normally have another person with us, Tom Fraser, who is absent today, but he'll be back next week. And if you enjoyed our little content today, our little chat, and you love Chelsea, do subscribe, give us a like, and we'll see you next week. Up the Chelsea. Let's hope next week we beat Bournemouth and we're climbing up the table.
Yeah.
See you next week.
See you later. Okay.